My name is Emily Carter. I was born in a quiet town in Pennsylvania, raised in a small two-bedroom home by my single mother, Lisa. My father had passed away when I was just a toddler, so I grew up knowing love, yes, but also limits. My mother worked 2 jobs, one at the diner, another cleaning houses, to keep us afloat. We didn't have much, but what we lacked in wealth, we made up for in warmth, laughter, and family. And at the center of that warmth stood my Aunt Rebecca. Everyone loved Aunt Rebecca. She was my mother's younger sister by 4 years, vivacious, stylish, and endlessly generous. While Mom wore second-hand uniforms and rarely had time for a haircut, Rebecca always arrived with her hair freshly done, nails perfectly manicured, and bags filled with surprises. New clothes, trendy gadgets. Once, she even brought me a puppy. I named him Leo. She'd sweep into our house like sunshine after a long storm, arms wide open, perfume trailing behind her like a ribbon of flowers. My earliest memories of her are filled with joy. She took me to amusement parks, brought me to her sleek city apartment for sleepovers, and told me bedtime stories that made me believe in magic. I adored her. I trusted her more than anyone in the world, maybe even more than my own mother. She always said, "I'm your second mom. Kiddo, anything you need, anything, I'm here." When I was in high school and conversations about college began, Rebecca's involvement grew. She would show up at school events, whisper in my ear about how proud she was. "You're going places. Emmy, just wait and see." She told me she'd help me through college, and not just emotionally. "Your dad set aside a fund for you," she told me one day when I was 16. He couldn't do much before he passed, but he made sure his little girl would be okay when it came time for school. I was stunned. My mom had never mentioned it. Aunt Rebecca said it was a surprise, something my father had arranged privately through her. A trust account. She was the executor. Of course I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was Aunt Rebecca. So I worked hard, harder than I thought I could. Late night studying. Saturdays volunteering. I applied for scholarships, but she always reassured me. "Don't worry, Emmy. Whatever isn't covered, your college fund will take care of it." When senior year arrived, I got accepted into 3 colleges. My top choice was a private liberal arts college just outside Boston. Tuition was steep, but Rebecca clapped her hands and said, "Done. Your dad would be over the moon." Mom looked a little hesitant that night. I remember. She asked a few questions about the money, but Rebecca brushed her off with a laugh. "I've got it under control. Lisa, don't stress. You worry enough." That summer, I prepared for college with butterflies in my stomach and stars in my eyes. I made lists, packed boxes, hugged Leo tight every night. I was ready for my future, for the life I had dreamed about. Until the morning it all collapsed. It was 2 weeks before my move-in date. I was in my room, organizing books, when Mom came in. Her face was pale, her hands trembling. Sit down. Honey." I did. Her voice cracked when she said, "I just got a call from the college. Your tuition payment bounced." I stared at her. "That's not possible," Aunt Rebecca said. I know what she said, "Emily." But I checked. There's no college fund. There's no account. There never was. The room spun. I couldn't breathe. "What are you talking about?" She told me it was from Dad, that she was managing it for me. I know, and I believed her too. But I went to the bank this morning. "Nothing's in your name." Nothing ever has been. I couldn't accept it. I stormed out, my heart pounding, fingers trembling as I dialed Rebecca's number. It rang twice before going to voicemail. I called again. Nothing. I texted. Waited. That night, she finally responded. I'm traveling. I'll call soon. Don't worry, sweetie. That was all she said. Nothing more. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I went through our house documents. I found old files, birthday cards she had sent with little notes. I looked at my dad's will. It mentioned something vague about a savings account, but not a fund or a trust, and certainly not anything that required Rebecca's management. I kept hoping it was a mistake, that maybe she had moved the money, or it was just delayed. I even considered that the college had made an error. But then Mom did something that shattered everything. She hired a lawyer. With his help, we requested formal banking records. It took days. Agonizing, awful days. But the truth eventually came, delivered in a manila envelope I will never forget holding. The documents were clear. There had been an account, a modest one. My father had set it up with Rebecca listed as a temporary trustee. But just months after his death, she had withdrawn every cent. Over $20,000. Used. Gone. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I sat on our porch with the pages in my lap, watching the sky shift from orange to gray. I thought about the clothes she had gifted me, the phone, the puppy, the flashy vacation she took, the new car she drove. She didn't help us out of kindness. She used my father's money, my future, to play the role of the generous, glamorous aunt. All those smiles, all that affection. It was funded by betrayal. When I confronted her, finally, days later, she denied nothing. Oh, Emmy, don't be so dramatic. I used that money when I needed it. I took care of you. That counts for something. That was a defense. That she gave me things. That she showed up. That I owed her gratitude. I screamed. I cried. I told her she had stolen my dreams. She looked bored. I hung up on her and collapsed on my bedroom floor. Mom tried everything to find a solution. She sold jewelry. She pleaded with the college. We applied for emergency aid, but it was too late. Orientation had passed. My spot was deferred, then lost. I watched my friends leave for school, suitcases in hand, laughter in their eyes. I stayed behind, broken. Rebecca vanished from our lives. No apologies, no remorse, just silence. For months, I couldn't even say her name. I hated her. But worse, I hated myself for loving her so blindly. I got a job at a local bookstore. I worked 6 days a week, saved every cent. I took community college classes at night. It wasn't a dream, but it was something. I kept my head down and pushed forward. But every so often, when I passed a certain perfume in the air, or saw a woman with red lipstick and sunglasses like haze, my stomach turned. She wasn't who I thought she was. Not even close. And I would soon find out. Her betrayal went even deeper than I ever imagined. The months that followed were the darkest of my life. I tried to pretend like I was fine, but the truth hung over me like a weight I couldn't shake off. Rebecca had stolen more than just my college fund. She'd stolen my trust, my future, and a piece of my heart that believed in her goodness. Every day, as I shelved books in the quiet corner of the bookstore, I thought about what I had lost. I had done everything right, everything she asked of me, and yet I was the one who had to pick up the shattered pieces. My mother kept apologizing, as if the blame somehow belonged to her. I remember one evening, she sat with me at the kitchen table, her eyes red. "I should have never let her handle that money," she whispered. "I should have seen through her." But I shook my head. She fooled all of us. I tried to move forward. I saved, took extra shifts, and slowly finished enough community college credits to apply for transfer. I knew I wouldn't be going to a fancy private school, but I refused to let her win completely. The fire in me burned brighter than my pain. Still, I couldn't let it go. The feeling of being used haunted me. I needed closure. I needed justice, not just for myself, but for my father's memory. That money wasn't just cash. It was the one thing he'd left me, a final act of love, and she had desecrated it. One day, while sorting through some of my dad's old things, I found something curious, a dusty binder filled with bank statements, life insurance paperwork, and a letter addressed to my girls. It was sealed. I don't know how it ended up buried in an old box at the back of Mom's closet, but there it was. With trembling hands, I opened the letter. "My dearest Lisa and Emmy, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't stay long enough to watch Emmy grow up. I want you to know how much I love you both. Emmy, I open a savings account in your name. It's not much, but it's something I hope will help when you go to college. I asked Rebecca to oversee it. Not because I didn't trust Lisa, but because I didn't want to burden her with more than she already carried. I trust Rebecca will do what's right." I stopped reading. My chest ached. My father had trusted her. He'd given her a sacred duty, and she betrayed it. I couldn't ignore this anymore. With that letter and the financial record we had obtained earlier, I took the case to a new lawyer, a friend of my manager at the bookstore who agreed to look over the documents. After a few days, he called me in. "I have good news and bad news," he said. "The bad news is that the money is gone, and it's going to be hard to recover it. The good news is we have enough to press charges for fraud and breach of fiduciary duty." I stared at him. "You mean she could go to jail?" "Possibly. Or at the very least, be forced to repay the amount with interest. But you'll need to be prepared for a long process. And it won't be pretty." I thought long and hard. Did I want revenge? Did I want to relive this pain? The answer came to me in the middle of the night, lying in bed staring at the ceiling. I didn't want revenge. I wanted accountability. I wanted my father's wishes to be honored. I wanted my voice heard. So I said yes. It took over a year. Court hearings, depositions, endless paperwork. Rebecca tried to charm the judge at first, tried to dismiss it all as a family misunderstanding. But the evidence was overwhelming. Emails, bank transfers, my dad's letter. She had no leg to stand on. When the judgment came down, I was there, sitting with my mother in the front row. Rebecca stood in her usual glamorous heels, dressed in an expensive coat, her lips tight. The judge looked her squarely in the eyes and said, "You abused a position of trust. You stole from a child. You dishonored your late brother's last wishes. You are hereby ordered to repay the full amount with interest, $29,482, within 6 months. Failure to do so will result in further legal action and possible imprisonment." I didn't cry. I didn't even smile. I just breathed, deeply, fully, for the first time in years. Outside the courthouse, Rebecca passed me without a word. Her eyes didn't even meet mine. She was no longer the woman I once knew. and I was no longer the girl who worshipped her. Over time, I finally transferred to a state university. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. I paid my way through with scholarships, work study, and the court-ordered payments she was forced to make bit by bit. I studied English literature and creative writing. I poured my pain into words, and my professors took notice. I started writing essays, then short stories. Eventually, I was offered a publishing internship, and my life began to bloom. By the time I graduated, I had a job lined up, a clean record of financial independence, and something more powerful than any stolen dollar: resilience. Mom and I moved out of that little house eventually. She started her own cleaning business, and for the first time in years, I saw her smile without shadows behind her eyes. As for Rebecca, she tried to rebuild her reputation, but word travels fast in a small town. Friends distance themselves. Family stopped returning her calls. She faded into the background, surrounded by things money could no longer buy her: respect, trust, love. Sometimes people ask me if I've forgiven her, and I say this: I've moved on. I've grown stronger. I've taken the pain and turned it into purpose. But forgiveness isn't always about forgetting. It's about remembering clearly and choosing not to let it own you. She may have stolen my college fund, but she didn't steal my future. That I claim for myself.